real quick what we want to see, what we kind of. I don't think I'm going to have the same format. I think this is pretty standard. I think what we'll start with is Bitcoin takes like 2 seconds. How do I just? Bitcoin takes 2 seconds, so we'll start with this really quickly. And Bitcoin at the end, if you've been watching this, doesn't make a lot of sense, so we don't really have to go over too much. So what we've been talking about in Bitcoin that we want to see, this was the entry point as we saw in like the video, I guess, what I don't know, like one day Sunday. So I guess that was 2 days ago. 2 videos ago, we talked about this. We could see the push up from here. So in my opinion, I think we can definitely expect buyers coming in here. What I'd be looking at is, oh, that's kind of loud, but what I'd be looking at on a day and a week time frame would be like a switch over. So let's see, what are we looking for right here? Where is this about? So 20,300. So hopefully we just have to push up a little bit more. I don't know if it really will matter if we switch over about where we are right now. Let me see, just to be like, where is this actually? Let's see. So to be slightly above 20,300 and just about 20,340. So we're pretty much right there. Just has to push up a small amount. I think it matters sometimes. This is just like a trend line based off of something a while ago, so it might not be completely accurate to look at it in that manner. But that's what I'd be looking for. We are coming up to more resistance, so that is kind of an issue. It's a lot easier to say down here because, we saw with the 2 and the 4. And if it's going to drop, it's easy to see to get out of the position. Now we're pretty high up. We can see like with the 2 here, it's been doing pretty well. So if we can get it to start at 20,500, it looks pretty good. In the same sense, I'd still be looking for a day to start under. And this is under the assumption that the market doesn't shoot down. And we'll kind of go into that. And I think the market overall looks pretty nice where it is, and we could see some things tomorrow. There's still a higher up target to try to hit on SPY, or on the S&P and on the Dow Jones as well, with a decent chance of a nice start showing strength from the Nasdaq as well. So that's pretty much that for Bitcoin. It's not really too much. If someone's getting in, I don't know, maybe this is a good position. It's just we have this one here, and then we have this big trend line, which has kind of been a pretty big issue. 1, 2, and then here, it's been pretty decent over here. So it's been a pretty decent trend line for what it's been, and a little bit of data a little bit before that also as well. So that's kind of something to look forward to. It's getting pushed up quite a bit, so it's a little bit more dangerous. Let's just kind of look at it this way, and then we can kind of look, as I said before, getting above this trend line is pretty important. Getting above this trend line and getting above these 2 lines at 22.5, I think, is also fairly important as well. So if we look at that where we are currently right now, that puts us obviously 22.5. That puts us like right here. So I don't know if it'll work like that. We might see something that we'll see what happens with this stuff. I'm more about ranges, not the individual movements in between. So I'd like to see something maybe push up into here, and then something like this maybe I think would be pretty cool, and we have a decent chance to rock it up. And then we look at this range, and then we're looking at something here by like late October, November. We're looking at something along here, this range pushing up. I still expect that we'd probably. I mean, it looks pretty decent. We'll see what happens with everything. I feel pretty good about a decent amount of it. Whether it breaks into this range or not, I don't know. That's a little bit too much work for me. I don't try to figure those things out, or I don't feel like it anyway. I think we do have a 12-hour here also, which is something to kind of note that we'll have halfway in between. I feel like it's pretty decent though. So this is something to probably look out for also as well. It doesn't really take into too much. It doesn't really take much away from this. We'll see what happens with the market because there's a couple other things. I don't want to go over everything, but I guess in like the most basic sense, if we can get back for Apple at least here, 152.50, I think next week. I think it's 152.50 next week, and we can start here. This will look pretty good. Um, this will look pretty good to be able to just shoot up, and then we're looking at 160. Is this right? I guess it is only 166. Okay, it just seemed a little bit low. But then we're looking at this range, which is pretty large gains also for the market. And then just to refer to the dollar, the DXY, on a month time frame, I mean, it looks a lot more obvious to come down somewhere between 99 and like 102, 103, something like that. So I mean, we have some stuff here where we are now, but it's still, I could easily see this just trending back down 105, coming down to 103 here. and this looks maybe trending even a little bit down farther to 102. So we'll have to see with that. And this kind of brings us to Apple on the short term. So let's do group fib. Let's get into this and let's just kind of go over what happened today. And then this will lead into what we want to see. So instead of doing it first, I'll kind of do it this way. I'm pretty tired. I didn't feel like doing it, but there's a lot of stuff we don't feel like doing that we should. I suppose is what I would say to myself, or is what I did say to myself earlier. um, so anyway, what we wanted to see is something start up around here. Something around here to me is pretty sketchy. That's what I was saying the other day. We started kind of in the middle. This wasn't that hard to tell, like in the middle of the stream. I had a feeling like if we put the issue with this is if we push down, we just push right back up. Um, and so it wasn't too surprising. I mean, we push up close to here, we get extra pressure down, we get this extra selling, and this will make a little bit more sense with it. On our way down, we come down to this 5. We never really get pushed in or interact with it. So if we kind of check around this time frame right here at this 315 or whatever, we'll see where the circle is. That kind of is what pushes us under this, and that pushes us down. So this seemed pretty reasonable. And I'll kind of explain why in a second. Why I think this looks good overall. Someone just wants the quick answer. So considering that it got bought all the way up here and it was top heavy, I really like what this has done. I don't think this can really afford to fail. I do question how much we can, whether we can get past this while the market's open. But personally, I don't care about post market right now. Like always, it literally means zero to me. I think even yesterday, post market was like down here or something, or maybe it was up and then down. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. And look where we are now. So it's just not important. Um, unless, like I said, unless there's earnings generally. Pre market's a different story. So anyway, with this, we get this nice bounce. The only way I think this could have been better is if we ended here and then switched over and then pushed up. But this is also about just as good as it gets with this candle, dragonfly, whatever. This candle switch over, boom, boom. And so the point here, why this was really nice, is because if we wanted to see this get sold down, we're going to need to see this, the same as I always say, we're going to need to see this actually start back under here to bring us into here. And then we're going to see it need to start here to even consider bringing us into this area. Otherwise, like no chance, no shot, no chance that it was going to push down. So from this perspective, from here, I'm not surprised whatsoever at all. We find the 1 hour and then we push up a little bit too much, in my opinion. If they were able to stop it here, if we were able to see, like for bears to win, it's tough because it's near the end of the day and they have to short for some reason or sell what they have. And then they got to let it bounce here and then come down and maybe end a 1 hour under all this. The issue with this is like it could still come back up and want to test, but I think this would have been the worst thing for it out of everything, which really isn't that bad. Towards the end of the day, after this 30-minute, there wasn't much of a chance for this thing to really get pushed back down. So we can see we move over on the 1 hour here, and this looks pretty good. And if you check a lot of other things, they look pretty decent as well. Some of them ended up in really nice places. I think I'll go over some of those a little bit later. We can go over some of the stocks as opposed to some of the cryptos. And we'll check oil, I guess, after this. We'll go through some of the other ones. So anyway, what do I think could happen? What do we kind of want to see? So we shot all the way up, which I think was really great. When we look at this, one last thing I want to show is we look at this from the day. This is why I was really hyped about it pushing down because this looks great from the day time frame. It looks like we pushed up here. We're still in this range. And I really, the more I kind of look at things as ranges, the more I've really been putting emphasis on not being in the range and then being in the range, I think is just so huge, which is why I think it'll be really huge if we can also manage to start somewhere in this area. Preferably the closer the better. A reverse of this would be nice where we see it start tomorrow somewhere right up here, easily just get the push down and then we can just push back up. Now this is where a lot of the shorting could come in around this 150 to 151 area. So that's kind of something to be wary of. Um, I would be more I'm not too concerned about it pushing through this area while the market's open. I would be very concerned about it pushing through this area. Let's say we do something like this. I would be very concerned about this pushing through the area. Um, tomorrow or like post and pre, more specifically pre, but post and pre, I'd be very concerned. But just the same thing here. I don't think we're going to pass through this while the market's open. So if we do start somewhere down here, we'll see what happens. I think it's more likely that we'll probably trend back down as opposed to pushing up. So we'll kind of see what happens. As always, the easiest way is just come in the morning at 9:15 and we go over this. And it's a lot easier once things start. It can be a little difficult for me at times to always try to guess, depending on if we start here, we'll do this. We start there, we'll do that, and this and that. It's a little bit difficult at times. Um, I have a feeling like this will. It's just like a feeling, I guess, based off of a thought, but it's more just like a feeling, intuition that this will be really tough to get through. But where it's set up, it looks great. I mean, it's hard to argue with this. It's really hard to argue with this, and with the 30-minute switch over right there into this, it's really hard to argue this hasn't ended in a bullish spot. And I think Bitcoin's really taking it well from where it is, even though it's at 2377. So this will be interesting. We'll be able to check that too before the video's over and see where this starts. I'm really interested seeing how it's like just stuck here. Technically, this is under that line. I don't know if it matters because it's like because it's like a trend line. It's like a it's a okay trend line. I don't want to say it's. I don't know if I believe it to be exact or perfect. Here, one second, I have to cough. Okay, all right, there we go. We're at 20,340. Perfect. That's all we need. So it just has to hold there for another 20 seconds. Nice job, boys and girls. So checking this, I mean, I think there's a decent chance we start here. Same as always. Um, hopefully we don't see the same thing again where it starts up here. We'll have to see. It could be in this. I think this is a much worse place, and it's going to be a lot harder for this to shoot up. And it's a lot more reasonable for bears to try to push this down. So really, I just hope we start as close as possible. I don't want to try to guess all this stuff because it's going to be too difficult for me, and I really don't care. I'll just be able to see it in the morning and adjust that way. But if we start somewhere down here, I expect us to kind of trend back down. I don't expect us to fall through this. If we do start in this area, though, let me make that clear. I don't expect it to fall through this if we do start in this area. Now, possibly we start a day down here, and that's what I'd be most concerned about. But just as I don't expect this to push through during the day, I don't expect it right now to really push through or anything that pushes through to actually hold under here while the day is. Now, if we have a downtrend and then maybe pre and post, we can start down here, I would be concerned. But overall, I think this has shown a lot of strength, even with this gap for what it is. Not just that it held up here, but like we saw with the 30 and the whatever, the way it did it. So the one nice thing about this, we'll kind of head back, is they were able to get it to start right above. So that is pretty cool, and we got a little hit down on it. So maybe we can get some pushing up right here. I think that would be pretty cool. I mean, as we go as these time frames progressively larger, it looks better and better for what it is. Really, it's just barely on the line. So I think this looks pretty decent for where it is. It is all the way up here, so it's hard for me to say like, yeah, this is a great buy-in spot when it's the next place that we have possible selling is here to here. But just based off of this, I think it looks pretty decent. I mean, it's possible we shoot through all this stuff. I don't know. I wouldn't make assumptions like that. That's why I say for me, I just try to play the ranges, and it seems to be the easiest way from this. Because if we get in here and we know if it comes under, we're gonna like cascade down. Okay, great. We'll get in here. And is there any concern? Right? It's up 6.8%. This ended in a great place, so I wouldn't be worried about it. If it drops under 19,961, maybe, but where it is, I think it's perfectly fine, and it is what it is. So let's go to the VIX. The VIX is something we'll have to be concerned about as we fall down, and this is something we could get engaged in when we see Apple around that 150. So we could see or expect a little bit of a market turnaround at that point. So that'll definitely be something to see. Um, that'll definitely be something to see right there. What kind of happens with this? I think it's a lot more likely that it'll kind of get pushed through, but we'll see whether Apple can retake the fight for next week for Apple, and I think the market, but Apple as a term of the market is really based on that 150 250. So one thing we can see for expecting some buying power also tomorrow, which would be really nice, is we see this 4 hour, we hit it, we get pushed back down the Nasdaq. That's nice to see. We turn over, we come back up to it. So it would be nice to see this here. Just kind of start on the top side, maybe a little bit of selling down. That's fine. That would coincide with Apple starting a little above and pushing down. And then I'd like to see this kind of come right back up and fight for these areas. We don't see anything like this. The Dow is still all the way up here, possibly at 3,600 or 3,850. And then with the SPY here, it has a little bit less room, which kind of more coincides to the actual resistance we can see. Well, technically it's like to here. So this would be about 381 to just 382.50, maybe 382.25 seems a little bit more likely. So that's kind of something to look forward to. We should have seen our day switch over. I don't really like what this has done so far. It's on a 4 hour, so it's whatever. I think this would be much better if it falls down. Obviously, we have our 200 smooth average right here. I'm not a huge fan of this. I can see why people might want to buy it up here. We'll see what happens with the market. It could just push it up. I preferably think a lot of this is going to have an inherent weakness if it doesn't come back down and touch here. So that's kind of something to look out for. But I think a small position here could be decent. As always, though, I like to see this stuff actually come back down and confirm before it does anything. But I get how it could just be something pretty strong pushing up. So I hope it comes back down. I think that'd be nice. Um, yeah, I think that'd be really nice. So, this is all the way up here, kind of is what it is. Everything's been pushing up. The dollar's been pushing down. We had our month, I think, start under. So all this still is in a somewhat weak spot that could always even like come up here, could reject. We really want to see a month start right above this or somewhere above here. Probably not moving too much. Everything's pretty volatile right now, which is one thing I'm not a huge fan of for the market. Silver's doing its thing. I don't really feel like looking. Honestly, I don't feel like looking at silver. I think it's pretty overbought also for what it is. We got our week 200, so I'd like to see it end somewhere a little bit farther down, come back down and touch before it moves up. Some things that look pretty nice. It looks like we've almost hit on the week 2 for Mara, which is pretty cool. So we'll see what happens for this. But we've ranged from, we have the day right here. That's where this is. So we got the day. Well, technically the day is a little bit lower now. But from where it was yesterday anyway, when we bounced, boom, pushed up off it. We started here again, bounced up. So we're just ranging all through here. But it's at the top of the range, and I'd like to see a weekend above it. So we'll see if something like that does happen. And I think, then we start entering these larger ranges for Mara as well, which looks pretty nice. So this could give a little bit more credibility to the idea of Bitcoin pushing up. I guess we can take a look at Tesla real quick. Man, this ended under 250. That's pretty wild. So 250 is the week time frame, I believe. Yeah, so this isn't like a huge deal. I think a lot of this probably came from Twitter and under the assumption that Elon Musk needs to sell more shares to generate enough money for Twitter. He's probably going to buy Twitter. We'll go look. We have 53.48 up here, so that makes sense. We'll see what happens. I don't know if there's really much of a reason for this to go above it. If the idea is that, I mean, it could just keep going up with the market. That's definitely possible. Um, though, off like a more fundamental perspective, if he said he's going to buy it for 54.50, I don't know if it really has a reason to go above 54.50. But hey, if it can end a week above here, if he's not buying it yet, and it can end a week above here, and it's just rumors that he's willing to buy it for that much, I mean, hey, why not move up to like 60 and say, hey, we're not going to sell it for less than 60. So I don't know what anything's finalized or whatever, but I mean, it's in a pretty nice position for what it's done. It would somehow started all of this from here, which is pretty insane that it started the day right here, considering where it was all the way under. And really, a lot of this has just been an extension of that, and then the rumors came out that, he's just going to do it. So, but I mean, it looked strong ever from September 7th, so it's pretty wild, and it held up ridiculously. So that's kind of that in a nutshell. Probably just end it there. I don't feel like going over too much really for any of this stuff. So it kind of just is what it is. I think that's pretty much it. Do we have anything? Nothing different. Nothing really different. I think that's about it. I'm just a little bit tired. I don't want to go over every single thing. I don't have the effort or the mental to go over every single thing. So we went over Bitcoin first. We went over Apple. Talked about what we want to see, and this will be hell for the bears tomorrow. We can start somewhere within this range, especially if it gets pushed down. I mean, we should be up here relatively within the first hour to 2 hours. We should be up to almost 150. Um, so the longer it takes, it sits down here and takes to push up, it's probably the better. So I will see you guys tomorrow, 9:15, maybe 9:20 if I'm a little bit late, waking up late, and then we'll go at it again. So it's been a pretty decent couple weeks. Take care, y'all. Stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you tomorrow.